Hello, this is Sabina at Cross Keys Crafts. I would like to show you today how you can stretch your dies and make them work for a slightly different look. Reason being is, in last month's magazine of Creative Stamping, that's issue 122, I saw this advertisement for this magazine that came with these strawberry dies. And I love this look, and I thought immediately, oh, I have to get the magazine. But magazines aren't cheap, really. Usually they're about £10. And I thought to myself, well, I can actually create this look without buying this magazine. First of all, I do own a strawberry die, which is very tiny. It's this little one. I think I bought this from Printable Heaven, and I'm going to link to that below. So this, I think, only cost me £1. I also have a leaf die that, yes, it's not a perfect strawberry leaf die, but it will work for it. Nobody will really look at this and say, oh, it doesn't belong to strawberries. And I've also got a mix of flower dies. So I thought to myself, I don't really need this die. And I'm going to show you now how you can create the stems just using your oval dies. Obviously, you can also just use scissors. You don't always need dies to create your cards, but it does help. It does make it a little bit quicker. And I'm going to show you two ways as well how to create like a trellis background. One, a very easy way, and then again one where you might actually have a die for this in your stash already. So this is my little dupe on this. So what I have done to create the stem, and it's not going to stay this shape, is I have used my oval dies, my nesting dies, and my nesting dies aren't very nesting. These are very far apart. So the next one down is like this. So if I cut it out like this, you would see the stem would be very thick. But what I have done is I have put it as close as I could to one edge, and I tweaked it a little bit so it's a similar width on the top and the side. And then when I took it out, I moved this inner oval over to the other side and cut this bit again so it's equal on all of the sides. I'm going to show you that again with these little ones. These are the ones I've got further down, and as you can see again, this one is much smaller than the other one. So if I place this on here, I'm going to, let me zoom in for that one. I'm going to move the middle one as close to the edge as I can, or want to. Might keep this a bit thinner as well, because normally the smaller stems are thinner. So now actually you can see I'm actually turning it away as well a bit. It's not, this one doesn't match the bottom bit here, because all I want is this sort of curve. So I'm putting this through my die cutting machine now. Sorry if I'm going off screen here. Just placed my die cutting machine here on the side. So you can see when I pop this out, it's got a nice edge here on the side. So for the second time through the die cutting machine, I'm just placing this now on the other side and get this on this side the same width as on the other side. And because this is bare now, I'm going to put some scrap paper underneath on my die cutting machine, because I don't want to cut into my plate. So sorry again for going off screen. So now when this comes out, I've got quite a good look to this. It could have been a bit slimmer there, but if I'm not happy, I can always cut it a little bit with my roundish nail scissors, and all I will need actually is just a bit here and a bit of that, and then that will be covered with a strawberry anyway. Or I might just use it the other way around, have this as the wider bit and put the strawberry in this end. So I'm going to cut a few more of these, the smaller ones definitely, and I'm going to cut a few leaves from the other bits of cardstock. And I'm also cutting my strawberries in red, and I show you, and I cut them in green as well, and I show you how to create the leaf bit at the top here. If you wanted to, you could cut these in white and just colour them in, but I like the look of paper piecing and make it all die cut pieces. So we'll be doing this off camera now, and then I'll come back and show you how to assemble the card. So I have cut my strawberries in red and green. This die is really nice. The holes came out very easily. They didn't come out on the green bits because I didn't clean the dye in between, so I just used it again and just cleaned it out in the end. But it doesn't matter because I only need the top bits. And as you can see as well, I just used scraps because I only need the top bit in green. So this was very card stock saving. So for the backing of the strawberries though, I want to use this cream coloured cardstock. It's very thin. I think it's only 160 GSM. And but I don't want to die cut this. If you're mad enough, you could obviously paper piece all these seeds and put them all in. I don't want to do that. That's just too time consuming. So I'm just using one of my green strawberries, and I'm just using my pencil, and I'm just drawing around this, just like this. I'm going to do this 5 times in a moment, and then I'm just cutting this out, but inside the lines, because I don't want this to go all to the edge, and then I can just glue that behind my red strawberries. For the top bit, I actually do have a bit of an indentation where the leaves should go, but I'll just use my round nail scissors, and I hope the camera picks that up, and I'm just cutting in here, and I want to sort of cut a bit like a middle piece down there, and then I come in from the other side. I'm turning my nail scissors round so it has the curve where I want to go, and I just cut it out like this. So I don't have it straight, I just have a bit of a curve in it. And this one I need to neaten up a little bit because I've got a bit of a corner there. It is quite fiddly, but once you get the hang of it, it'll be okay. So I've got a bit of piece left there, so I'm just cutting this again there. Just pop it on there. Oh, it's upside down. And then I'm left with this. And once I put this on the red strawberry, it'll look fairly natural. So you can vary them a little bit, cut them a little bit differently, so it won't show. I'm still not happy with that corner there. So I'm using my scissors again. I want to meet that very corner there. This is better now. Let me show you that again. So I hope it picks it up. The camera picks it up. So I'm going to do this now with all the strawberries. I'm going to put these together. So I'm gluing the green bits on the red and then put the cream coloured behind it. And then I'll show you how to create the card bases. So my strawberries are finished. I did actually vary the green bit a little bit and cut 2 curves in this one, but I do actually prefer the first version that I've already shown you. Just to show you the back, that's just how I covered the back. So these are ready to go. And I did say just a second ago in my video I'm going to show you 2 base cards, because I decided on the way that I'm going to create 2 cards, because I wanted to show you 2 different ways of creating the background. I've got one piece of cardstock here that is 4 3/4 square. This is, just to show you this is from this paper pad. I showed you that in a haul. I think that was from Printable Heaven, I can't remember now. I think any background works that is not too busy, that maybe just has a geometric pattern. Gingham is quite nice. I try to find that because that's what they had in the samples in the magazine, but I don't have gingham that goes with this colour scheme, green and red. But I've also got these polka dots, and that's for the second card. And this one is 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 for a 5 by 7 card base. And that is, did I tell you that wrong? I might even have cut that wrong. I told you 4 3/4. No, it is not. It's 5 3/4 square because that's for a 6x6 card base. So apologies for that. So, as I said to you, I want to create 2 different ways of the background. This was inspired by a recent video on Craftstash that had a release of background dies. And I own this background die, which makes a lovely trellis. But I also want to show you how to create a trellis from scratch just by using paper strips. So this one, obviously, you just cut out with your normal, just the die as a die cutting machine. But I want to pop this behind a window. So for both cards, I'm going to create a window, and I decided for the square card, I'm going to use a scalloped circle. So we'll just be cutting an aperture like this. Make sure it's even on either side, although you don't have to have it even. You can set it off. Might actually be an idea. And I might just have the strawberries on the side. I think I'll actually do that, thinking about this. And in the other one, I'm just going to use my oval die again. I think I'm using the smaller one, which again gives me enough space on either side to then put on my strawberries. So I shall do this off screen, and then I'll show you how to easily cut slim strips on your guillotine, because I always found this a bit tricky, and I found a nice way of doing that. Before I forget to mention that, because I did forget to mention it when I showed you the strawberries, I used my 2-way zig glue. I find this is the least messy when I have small intricate dies, and that works very well. I've got no glue oozing out and it holds perfectly. I've cut the 2 apertures, and I've also cut this background die with a really thin cardstock. And thin cardstock sometimes means that it's more difficult to get these pieces out. There is a very good video by Lou Collins where she explains how you die cut things and how you get how you get them to work with different kinds of cardstock. I'll try to find it and link it below. But I have got this tool. It's like a brush, and it came with this sponge, so for me it should be really easy. If I just go over this, they should come up very easily. And I don't even need the whole piece because I'm going to pop this behind the circle, and that just helps me to get these out quicker. You can obviously use a pokey tool, but this might take a bit longer, and I can just take it off. If it doesn't come off, keep your finger on the piece you want to keep so you don't tear this. Same here, and also make sure, especially with the smaller pieces, that you have actually removed them from the back as well. Sometimes they fold backwards, and then when you try to glue them down, it gets in the way. So I will be sorting this off screen again quickly, and if you want to keep these for a shaker card, you could. I normally put them in the bin. But I also want to show you how you can cut paper strips. So I've got this scrap paper here. That was an A4 sheet before I cut this die cut out. And I've got my guillotine here. Let me just zoom out again a bit so you can see what I'm doing. And I find it quite tricky because you don't have any measurements here on the guillotine. If you've got a trimmer with a rolling blade, that might be different. So what I like to do is I like to cut this to a certain width. Like I've got 6 inches here. I hope it's not casting too much shadow. So I've got 6 inches here, so I'm cutting it straight there. And then when I start moving it over, I know how thick the strips are, so I can move it to 5 3/4, and I know this gives me a 1/4 strip, which is good for the project now. And then I'm moving it to 5 1/2, which again gives me a 1/4 strip. And I find this so much easier. So 5 1/4, and then to 5, and so on. And then I know that all my strips are a 1/4 wide, and you obviously can do this with any other width. If you wanted it 1/2 inch, you just go in 1/2 inch installments. As long as you start at a proper number here, that'll be really easy. So even if you've got A4 cardstock, cut it down to 11 inches and then you can move it over. So I cut a few more strips. I don't need that many. I'll tell you in a moment how many I need when I find it out myself on the card base, and then I'll show you how to create a trellis from scratch. So for my trellis, I've got 2 scrap pieces of cardstock, but you could use the thin ones if you wanted to. And I'm going to create a frame which allows me to stick all these strips down. I find this is easier for me, and also I know that I want to have my strips at a diagonal, so I'm going to build this frame first. I'm going to put some glue in the corner here just to hold this piece in place. When you glue this onto your cardstock, make sure you press down these bits that sit in between the other strips, just to make sure all the glue adheres. This one still wants to pop off a little bit, but I think once I've put the strawberries on top, it'll be fine. So I'm using my oval die now, the same oval die I used for the aperture, just to see where I need to cut down my cardstock. And I want to keep this sort of even, make sure that this line of squares sits sort of in the middle, just to give it a good look. And then with a generous edge around the side, I'm just going to mark this so I know where to cut my card base to pop this behind the window. So on second thoughts, in hindsight, I would probably have been better off, rather than creating this frame, just doing this straight on this cream coloured card base and just put the strips on that and glue it down there. I think that might have been easier, but never mind, it's always easier in hindsight. So I'm going to cut this out now, just by hand, and then I can glue this behind my little window. So even though it looked quite a mess before, now it will look really, really nice. I hope you can see that there. So as I said, I'm going to glue this down. I'm going to use the collal glue this time, and then I will also, off camera, I will stick this behind here. Again, I'll try to keep it symmetrical, keep it even. I might have to poke through a few more of these bits. And again, I think I'm going to back this with the cream coloured cardstock, just to set it off a little bit. You can put some vellum behind it. You can put the whole thing on foam and have a bit of a gap, so you've got a 3-dimensional look. Loads of things are possible. Now all that's left for me to do is to decorate the cards. I have cut down the oval a bit on this side, just to make it a bit slimmer where the strawberry actually sits. And I did that with the other oval bit as well, a bit, just on this end here. So when you cut your oval dies, you might want to do this as well, just have it a bit slimmer on one of the sides. So I decided to just start off by gluing this one down here, and first I thought I'll leave it around the aperture, but I think I might just offset it a bit, just to have a bit of space here. So I will move it over a little bit here, and I'm not too bothered about the bottom here, because I will put my sentiment across to hide where it starts. This time I'm using my collal glue, because I want to make sure these actually don't move on the surface. You could use your quick grab glue if you wanted to, but I always like to have a bit of a wiggle room, just in case I don't sit them down in the right place to start with. And also I know that I will tuck one bit underneath, so just going a bit over here. Don't want to press it down too much there, because I want this piece to sit underneath there. So if your fingers get in the way, just use your tweezers. Now I can lift this up again. Sorry if I've got my hand in the way. And then this can sit underneath there. Just seeing if I need to move it up a little bit. Maybe just about there. And the other good thing about the collard glue is as well, I've got a bit of bulk here, but once I press this down, it all sits in place. Doesn't really matter there. You could cut this down here if you wanted to and not tuck it underneath, but I might even put a flower on the top there. So, using some of my strawberries for this card, some for the other card. Obviously you can cut as many as you like. Just one having sit here. Maybe put the other one a bit at an angle, just to make it look a bit more natural. You can have two if you wanted to. I think on this side I just have the one. Maybe sit it a bit here. So I will also put down some leaves. I think I could either tuck these underneath if I lifted this up again, but I think I just cut these off a little bit. And the leaves are a good way of bulking this up as well a bit. And I think once you've created a trellis like this, you want to take the focus away a little bit from it, because that's just the background. It's not supposed to be the focus. So if I hold this against this now, I need to know which angle I need to cut this at. And then I can sit this against the stalk. I move it up a bit because of the sentiment I will have at the bottom. I'm having a look if I want another leaf going that way, but I don't think I will. But I will have a leaf coming down here. So again, I can judge where I want to cut this. Yeah, and it can sit right against that stalk piece of cardstock. So, and these flowers, I'm not stacking them, I'm leaving them as they are, and just use the different sizes individually. You could stack them, you could create them in different colours. I've just used this cream. You could use them in white, add a bit of yellow, but I'm just filling this up, and I already know that I will put little gemstones or beads in the middle. So I'm having the bigger ones towards the bottom. And again, I'm using glue on all the petals. You could just use it in the middle and use it as a three-dimensional bit, but I want to have this stuck down, especially if it goes in the post. And just contemplating whether I want to have a third one or whether that looks too regular. I might just do that, because it will hide this bit a little bit here. So I'm just thinking whether I need one more strawberry somewhere. Could have one at the bottom. Yeah, I think I will just have that one like it's fallen off. It already sits there. Also takes the focus away from this strip that looks a bit awkward there. So I'm sitting this on the edge. And also, I've heard that somewhere, if you have groups of three, it looks harmonious. So I've got the 3 strawberries there and the 3 flowers there. So yeah, well, as I said, I have to sort the sentiment. I haven't thought about that yet, what I'm going to put at the bottom. But for the other card, I will just use the smaller ones. Oh, by the way, this was a leftover where I cut the smaller piece out, and because that was the inner of the bigger one, and then I used the scrap to cut this out, so I've actually got another bow here that I can use, and I think I will do that. So I'm just using my nail scissors, and if you don't have oval or round dies, you might just want to cut them by hand anyway. So, and as I'm going around, I'm going to get wider because the stalk's going to be bigger the closer it gets to the roots. So I'm not testing here how I want this. Again, I'm not too bothered about this because I can hide that with a sentiment, and I've actually also kept these ovals because they might be nice for a background for sentiments. So I'm just cutting this a bit straight here and cutting this a wee bit thinner because I will put the strawberry right at the end here. Hope my video is not getting too long. Yeah, for those of you who just like the end, watch the end of a video, that's fine. I sometimes click through videos if they're too long. But for those of you who like to watch the process and learn from that, I'm glad you're still sticking with me here. So, yeah, just pop this here so that the strawberries will sit right here on this trellis. So I think this time I just cover the bottom with the leaves first. Should have another leaf somewhere. I'm sure I cut 5, but yeah, I'll just leave it like this. Just offsetting it a little bit. As soon as you apply pressure to the collal, it glues down really nicely. So I've got 2 strawberries left here. So I think maybe for this one I just have a double here and just then add the other flowers. Yeah, I think that might just be enough for this card. So just have a play with what you have and what you like. And I hope I could show you in this video that you don't need to have all the fancy dies, that you can be very creative with just a small stash. Because I have vowed, and I've mentioned that before in a video, I've vowed not to buy any craft supplies except for maybe glues in the next few months, because I've got so many things that I haven't used yet, and they're just sitting there waiting to be used, and I start feeling guilty about not taking the time to use them. I think this time I will actually stack them rather than scatter them around, just for a different look. So I'm just offsetting them. I'm not even sure if that's a natural look for a strawberry flower, but it doesn't matter. So there you go. So what I'll do now is, just before I show you the finished cards, I will sew some beads in my stash, and I will find some sentiments that I can use. It'd probably be just some happy birthday. I'm having a look if I've got any stamps that are summer and strawberry related, and then I'll show you the finished cards. So here are my nearly finished cards, because I haven't stuck this one down yet. I found in my stash a square pink card which I thought was absolutely lovely to go with the background paper, and I have stamped this sentiment, "Have a sweet birthday." This is from actually the magazine I showed you at the beginning of the video, which was the Creative Stamping Magazine issue 122. So I just took that stamp from that, and I thought that really matched it. And I used my scallop oval to die cut it, and I thought the scallop here goes nice with the scallop here, and I just use the same cream coloured cardstock just to tie it all in. And for the centre of a flower I used a little bead. There are these here. I think I got them from Printable Heaven. I'm not sure. If I can find them, I'm going to link to them below because they're really, really cute and nice. So yeah, I'm really pleased with this card. I wonder whether it could have done with another strawberry, but I actually like how these are in focus here. And yeah, I'm really pleased with this one. And this one I haven't stuck down yet. Again, I found coloured cardstock card. I think these are from the works as well. I bought them years ago. So this is a pale green, which goes nice with the background colour here. And the reason why I haven't stuck it down yet, I wanted to show you the trellis here created quite a bit of bulk. So I decided just to put foam strips on either side. So I'm going to peel these off and then just stick this one down. And I used the same scalloped oval, but just for the background. And I used the smaller oval. Again, I'm going to link to this set in the description box. These are scalloped ovals and normal ovals as nesting dies. So the smaller one is straight. And I used that to cut out the same sentiment. And I chose the red for the background because I thought that ties nicely in with the strawberries. So, and I use the same beads there on the flowers. Yeah, I'm really pleased with this card as well. I think these are really cute, really summery. And yeah, they saved me from spending £10 on a magazine. So if you like these cards, you might want to give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, you might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that. And I do promise you not all of my videos will be as long as this one.